Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is maintaining frame number, like 104, 107, actually. Something women most affected. So, Allison, you can talk now. I unmuted you.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Oh yeah, there you go.
No, I'm good. We got it up. We're on artist time in this particular channel. Yes, we are going to be talking about how boys are lost, and because of that, something women more oppressed, something boys are lost in a desert, so they need to draw their own map to an oasis, and that'll solve everything. That's how it works, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, well, of course it is. I mean, how else do we deal with the crisis of masculinity if not by blaming men?
Exactly. We haven't done that hard enough. And there's been a nanosecond since we last blamed men. So let's do it again. All right, so we are going to be looking at this fine fellow. I have to navigate to find his name.
Struthless.
Struthless. Is that sort of like strudel, except you don't have one? Strudelless?
I don't know.
Is it pronounced like that? Struth?
Struth.
Do we have the struth? Is the struth somewhere in the building? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sure that there's a very legitimate reason behind this name, and it is a dignified name with a storied history and a deep and profound lore that incorporates themes of loss and desire for understanding and a willingness to question oneself and doubting the doubts. You know, I'm sure it all has it. It has it all, but we don't know what it is, so we're just gonna have to go with the title, which is Struthless. I don't know the name of this guy. I should know the name of this guy. I'm really sorry, guys. I don't know the name of this guy. He seems really just out of nowhere, don't you think? He's probably another huge channel, though. Yep.
Yeah, another one of these out of nowhere, like influencers that just blew up. Yep.
Yeah, let's see what the channel says. Struthless. Joined September 6, 2017, Australia. 119 videos. 1 million subs. Holy man, what's his magic, huh? Wow. Okay, well, I guess we'll find out, because we're going to cover this particular video by him, which is The Answer Isn't Online Masculinity. This is a man talking about masculinity online. Okay, all right. Fair enough. And young men are lost. Now, I wasn't kidding when I said it appears to be, just from a initial tickle through his trunk. Oh God, that was awful. I'm sorry. That what he seems to be saying is that young men are lost in a desert. And literally, the way that you get unlost in a desert, if you're a young man, is you simply pick up your pen and paper and draw yourself a map to the nearest oasis. Do you see any flaws in that logic, Brian? Like, I mean, it seems pretty sound, don't you think? There's no hole in that bucket. Unless you can identify one.
It seems the easiest way to deal with these kinds of problems is to basically do everything you can to not ask anyone except men to take it on. I mean,
yeah,
it is just the nature of the burden.
Basically tell men, if you expect anybody else to do any of the work, you are a burden. So if you fail to unburden others, then you become a burden. If you fail to take on the burdens of others, you become a burden. And if you have burdens, you are a burden. And yeah, such it be. Okay, let's so before we begin, once again, if you want to send us a message, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip, except do not use the username Clyde, because I'm sorry, I just saw you. You're like, what? No, apparently the username Clyde, it gets caught in the system, and subsequently your Super Chow gets eaten. So don't use that username. Perhaps just put an asterisk in the place of the Y. I do not know why that's causing an error, by the way, guys. I can't even begin to understand why Discord has a problem with the username Clyde, but apparently it does. So don't use that. But anyway, if you want to send a message, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You get the full benefit of not sending your comment through the YouTube comment enhancement system. And as long as you're not named Clyde, you should be fine. And we get the full benefit of whatever funds you send. It's the
Play
only
it
censored
safe.
word. It's the only censored word I've seen so far is Clyde.
Well, just to be safe, though, maybe it's a good idea not to use the names Inky, Blinky, and Pinky either, just so you get all the ghosts out of the way,
Yeah.
because they're all
Yeah.
risky, and Clyde especially, I assume.
Yeah.
As well
yeah.
as Sue. Don't do Sue. But anything
Clyde
else is fine.
Clyde is definitely on the FBI watch list for some reason. He's a sneaky little ghost. All right. So once again, feedthebadger.com/just-a-tip to send us a tip and also a message. And if you want to support the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support, except not yet because I haven't set it up. But eventually it will be up and you can go there. All right. Let's just
All right, let's get into it.
yeah, did you by any chance look at this opus? And
No, I have not
no?
seen it at all. I don't know what's going to be in it. So,
Oh, so you're fresh.
I mean, it is broken up into chapters. So, do you want me to
Yep.
jump to a specific chapter?
Let me take a look at those chapter headings because I don't.
Well, there's an intro.
My experience,
Mhm.
masculinity and others. Yeah, I can't see it at the moment if you're showing it.
It says masculinity in crisis.
Oh, in crisis.
What are those words? Yep. The algorithm loves
it. Oh, yes. The biggest predictor of engagement, which he basically discusses how identifying enemies. I've talked about this on this channel before. If you're a channel who identifies the enemy, like you point at a specific group of people, you get a lot more engagement, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we don't. I mean, we do call out feminists, but mostly feminist behavior. We don't really say that feminists are the only ones who engage in that behavior either. So the fact that we don't identify a specific political group as the enemy consistently probably squelches some of our engagement. And he goes over that as well. And then the next chapter is
what do you do?
Mm-hmm. So he gives a sort of an idea. And then he gives his own concept of how boys should navigate this crisis, which of course he doesn't really identify what the crisis really is or where it's coming from. And his end result is basically saying it really is, you're lost in a desert. Make yourself, just draw yourself. Imagine an oasis and draw yourself a map to it. and there's some parts that are missing there. I don't even think he realizes that they are missing because he is stuck in a framework that he hasn't even begun to question. So let's start. I mean, we could just start. Let him intro. I mean, avoid the this video is sponsored by, but let's just start it. Is it though?
Hold on a second. I just
1
want to
million
share the
viewers.
source. Yes.
1 million subscribers. I was an online person and I became an offline person. Wow, how did you do it? Like 1 million freaking subscribers. Wow. And you're right. The whole topic about masculinity is absolutely radioactive. If you talk about it from one particular angle, you will be completely avoided by almost every algorithm. And I don't even think it's because it's conscious censorship. It's because it's actually challenging something very fundamental and essential to our social landscape. Like I said, he's within a particular framework and he does not question it. So we're going to identify that framework right here on Honey Badger Radio the way we usually do. This is a maintaining frame, right? Oh, I forgot to say
Yeah,
the
it is.
title.
I said that 107. No, I did it. That's why you
yes.
forgot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You introed.
Yeah, I did.
I apologize. I've like the memory of a goldfish. All right, let's keep going.
All right.
Because you declared them not the future. Like, because there's an entire academic branch devoted to framing masculinity as bad with no redeeming qualities. And if they want, like, anybody who uses the term toxic masculinity, describe positive masculinity that you associate with men and boys the same way you associate toxic traits. Go ahead. Nobody has ever been able to, and nobody who uses the term toxic masculinity has ever been able to describe positive masculinity and genuine positive masculinity, as in these traits are positive and they are more likely to be seen among men and boys than women and girls. Period. Full stop. Just like you say that these toxic traits are more likely to be seen among men and boys. Nobody who uses that phrase has ever successfully finished the positive masculinity challenge, right? So maybe that's why boys are feeling lost, because their identity is under attack.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue. Well, I'm sorry. I'm still fiddling around with my automatic scene switcher thing. I just want to make sure it works. You know.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You can. Honestly, I think it's great. Like I do a long rant, and you say, "Yep." Because what can you say to that? Like,
what can you say?
As a society, we have decided to put masculinity in our crosshairs, right? And to give young men nothing positive about their sexual identity, gender identity. I guess it's gender identity. Nothing positive. No positive recognition of being boys and men. And then you have the audacity to ask yourself, well, why do they seem lost? Such a head scratcher, huh? Okay.
Just a second here. I just want to make one more adjustment. And we're going to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm switching to the source, and we're going to play more of the video.
Masculinity toxic.
Yes.
Women don't like
Left want to define traditional masculinity as toxic.
We need men 4 times as likely to kill themselves.
No, men are in trouble.
sexist, rapist piece of shit.
You got it.
Let's tackle this topic in 2 parts. Part 1.
Okay, so he's identified it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Which it is.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't identify the genesis of the mess.
No,
He's
of course
basically
not.
saying that the river is polluted, but he's not going and stepping up the bank of the river to find out who's dumping the sewage in. And anybody who's been listening to us for a while knows exactly who I'm going to, or what I'm going to call out. Men oppress women. Defining the relationship between men and women, that is the relationship, the 2 genotypes, the 2 genetic categories that human beings come in, aside from all of some of the extraneous or the extra ones, the 2 main genetic categories that led us to the point where we exist today are defined by hatred, war, oppression. Okay? Right? The 2 groups of people, the 2 main groups of people that throughout all of human history had to cooperate in order for us to even be here, are defined in terms of oppression. Okay? That's the source of the corruption. That is the source of it. Right? And of course, because boys are the ones who are defined as the oppressors, they're the ones who are dealing with having their identity targeted for annihilation. At least any positive aspects of their identity. They can still feel like they share grape with each other and domestic violence and all of the negative parts of being human, all the social ills of being human, but all of the positive traits, nope. You can't exclude girls and women and girls from those positive traits by giving them to men and boys. That would be misogyny. Well, there you go. Why are boys lost? Why don't they know what it means to be a boy? Because we've told them that it is evil and that they are evil for even wanting to have a masculine identity. Okay, that's where he's coming from. Okay, but let's see. Let's see what he has to say.
All right. Let's go back to the sources and play some more.
One will be understanding the crisis, and part 2 will be finding a roadmap to a solution. All right, let's give it a shot.
If you're the kind of person who feels like they need therapy, you're useless.
This video is going to get pretty heavy, so I thought I'd kick things off light with my top 5 dumb boy moments. Coming in at number 5, me and 2 friends got super drunk and scaled a crane. Coming in at number 4, I used to be such a druggo that when I got my wisdom teeth out, I learned how to pull bongs through my nose. Number 3, when I was a teenager, I wanted to impress my friends while I was driving, so I climbed on top of the car while I was driving. Number 2, this haircut. And number 1, when I was 20, I broke a rib because I put a beer bottle on a sign and I tried to fly kick it off, but my foot got caught on the sign and I just fell.
Yeah. What does it mean? Like, what are we getting at here? All right, let's play some more here.
So, that. Alright, so my experience with masculinity sucked. I never really had traditional masculinity modeled to me. I'm not like other boys. I learned to shave by like spying on my friends. And then also...
So you are the product of a single mother?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you is there something in your life that might be missing that a lot of like younger guys that have, I guess, what you consider normal masculinity? Is there something about them that
somebody
had
might
that you
have taught
didn't
them
have?
how to shave, you know?
Right.
Oh, but here's the other thing. He's identified these risk-taking moments, and he says, that's my experience with masculinity. Masculinity sucked. All right. But the general tendency towards risk-taking also includes innovation. It also includes the protection and provision of society. It also includes, you know, making actually being able to manage the emotional pressures of high stress jobs. And I'm not even talking about like traders, like Wall Street traders. I'm talking like men mostly, who manage the utility grids and have to make decisions that are life and death. You know, surgeons, those are all, in fact, if you look at the majority male occupations, most of them are defined by being more willing to take risks, being more willing to tolerate pain and danger and discomfort, and also being physically stronger. So you say that your experience of masculinity was bad, and you give an example of a bunch of risk taking, and you don't take that further, because that's not just there's not just negatives to risk taking, there are also significant positives. Right? Almost anything that you identify as a negative aspect of masculinity, if you are really going to identify it with masculinity, aside from all the social ills that get lumped in, which are total crap, but if you're going to identify things like risk-taking, then you have to accept the positives. So go up a tall building. Go up to the top story. You know, look out and look down and say to yourself, men's risk-taking built this. Okay? Fly an airplane. Men's risk-taking made this safe enough for there to be commercial air travel. Right? Okay? Enjoy spending money. Men dying in war made that possible for you. Like, go appreciate the parts of risk-taking that have helped build everything that you enjoy and everything that everyone in our society enjoys. And he didn't even think that. You see that?
Yeah, sure. He went right to, you know, look at all of the dumb stuff I did as a man. This is the reality for all men. It's like, well, no, you had the same instincts and the same drive that other men have, but you used it in really stupid ways, and it's every man's fault that you did that. Not and we need this instinct. It's an energy, or whatever you want to call it, aura, whatever. But we need it driven in the right direction, in a healthy direction that's not self-destructive, that's not harmful. And you didn't have that. So that's not the fault of men or masculinity. That's not the fault of the internet influencers. That's just you. That's just your fault.
Yep. Okay, let's watch a little bit more.
All right, going back to the sources here.
I'm also a survivor of child sexual abuse, wherein the rapist was male. I was a child. What the fuck? And as a result, I struggled a lot with sort of like, I don't know, all the kind of things that you would imagine that you'd struggle with after that. Yeah. My coping mechanisms used to be terrible. I was addicted.
My friend, and I would not normally say this, I don't think that this is necessarily the case because you went through child sexual abuse. There's some other stuff you talk about later. I don't think you are in a position to really explain how to deal with this stuff. Because I don't think you're in a position to really appreciate masculinity.
Yeah.
As, in and of itself. And I'm not saying that you can't be, but... And also, if you're the product of a single mother, you are going to be more vulnerable because you don't have an adult man using his risk-taking to protect you. So, I mean, this is like... I feel bad about saying this because it's not... Like, I don't want to say that he's negating your right to talk about this because of his horrific experience, because I've had that done to me, too. But then again, I mean, I don't... I won't get into that, but I think he has some unresolved stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I...
No, definitely some unresolved baggage.
Let me just put it this way. If somebody had been gored by a bull, I don't necessarily think they're gonna have a completely accurate view of cattle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what cattle need, or whether or not cattle are worthy of living. So let's keep and I feel bad for him because he had this experience. But let's keep going.
All right, let's keep going.
Not anymore. I had terrible mental health. Like I was almost going to die. I loved impulsivity. I just enjoyed the high of adrenaline. Often at 3, suburban dad, married to my wife. We've been together 12 years. And I'm not saying that that's on the other side of sort of reckless boyhood. I'm more just saying that I know what it means.
So at no point did you actually have a relationship with a man to help you overcome this. At least you're not willing to express that, or that's not the first thing that comes to mind. Just pointing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because a relationship with a man is going to be a really important part of your relationship to your masculine identity, especially for a boy who apparently didn't grow up with a father. You know, and okay, well, let's hear some more.
All right, let's hear some more. Here we go.
I know what it means to struggle with typically male unhealthy coping mechanisms, and I also know what it means to be on the other side of those struggles.
Masculinity in crisis.
Has he, like, here's my question. Has he really overcome that? Or has he got something in his life that he hinges his identity on in terms of serving? Like, there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Have you overcome it, or are you masking it through service to something else? Your family. You know, that's something I notice about men. I'll use a much more cheerful anecdote. There was a patron in our Discord many years ago, and he was sort of berating himself because he hadn't hung a bunch of pictures, and it had been months, and he was like someone who really liked Jordan Peterson, so he was like, oh, I gotta clean my room, you know, I gotta make and I can't make myself do this. I'm like, I have had these pictures for months and months and months, and I haven't hung them, and I can't believe that I'm so lazy. And I was like, well, why don't you try something I do? Just do a next immediate action. So instead of berating yourself about not hanging the posters, just identify what's the next thing you need to do it. Like, do you need to get hooks? Then the next thing is go to the store, get hooks. I know if you need to get a hammer, go to the store, get a hammer. If you need to hammer put the hooks in the wall, then your next immediate action is to, measure out where you want the hook and put it into the wall. just nothing, like there's nothing between you and this next action. And so he did. I don't know if he did it. I gave him that advice. A few months later, I asked him, okay, so what's happening with the pictures? And he said, I hung them, and then I realized that I hate them. And this is something that I've noticed about men. I know that's sort of a funny, like it's just the reason why he didn't want to hang them actually was because there was a subconscious revulsion towards them. He didn't want them on his wall. And he had, instead of addressing the problem, the emotional problem he was having with the pictures, he focused on the thing he had to do and berating himself for not doing it. And that's what I mean. It's like you evade the emotional problem by focusing on the action that needs to be taken. And then sometimes all you do is just get into a negative thought spiral of, I'm not taking this action, I'm such a lazy person, whatever, right? But it's because you've evaded the real issue, which is you don't like the picture, And this is something that, again, I've noticed about men. They will not evade, but they'll just, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing because it's a very necessary thing in certain circumstances, but they'll avoid the emotional reaction to something in favor of attaching to not emotionally, but certain like terms of their identity to a particular action that needs to be taken place. And now this, like I said, this is not a negative thing. This is just something I've observed. And if you think about it, it's pretty important that men do this because you can't always spend time marinating in your emotions. Often, especially the things that men get up to, you have to identify the next thing that you need to do, the next action that needs to be taken to deal with the circumstance. But when you're dealing with something involving mental health issues, involving trauma, involving really not liking the picture that you were given as a gift, then focusing on the next action or the action that you need to take can be a way of avoiding it. And this is why I'm asking, has he genuinely overcome whatever issue he has, or has he simply found something to do, something else to serve? Okay, I'm just saying that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's get back to the source and play some more.
Nada. To me, this is like asking if there's a climate crisis. Even if you deny climate change, it's not going to be a bad thing to look after your planet. Even if you deny that there is a masculinity crisis, it's not going to be a bad thing to help young men become better. The counter argument would be that...
Okay, you know what? I'm not going to get sucked into the climate argument, but I will say one thing. Climate change has basically sucked the air out of every other environmental cause. And I say that as somebody who was very concerned about other environmental causes and watched the one that governments can tax become so much more important than every other one. So I just want to say that, but that's like an aside. And I know that's not on topic.
If you think the climate activism is a money laundering scam wrapped up in a government plot to, like essentially delete human beings as the carbon, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because there's plenty of evidence. So without getting into it too much, it's okay to be critical of the conversation around climate change. So, and that's nothing wrong with that.
It's okay to be critical about the conversation around men's mental health.
Yes, exactly right.
Somewhat.
But he's acting like, well, this is just like, he's basically saying, Allison, this is how absurd this conversation is. I'm going to compare it to climate change. Because if you have any criticisms of this thing that I have essentially made into a golden calf that is climate change, then something is wrong with you clearly, and I don't actually have to explain myself at all. And so the issue is not what you feel about climate change at all. It has nothing to do with that. The issue is how he is framing this conversation so that you can't have an opinion outside of the one that he's going to give you. That's what this really is. So, you know, once you understand the tools and how they use it, it's
I wonder
really
if this
easy to
is the
see.
payload. I wonder if this is the payload. But let's keep going. Like to get to sneak this under the wire. But
The
again, this
delivery
is
system is I am the final authority because, I don't know. It's like it's just the way that it's framed tells you everything, I think. But we'll see. I haven't seen much of this. It's obviously just started, so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
More attention. But, in the words of Scott Galloway,
Compassion is not a zero-sum game.
to understand modern masculinity,
See?
It's treated like a zero-sum game. And often, I hate to tell you, but you're just at the lip of all of this problem. Like, you're the very lip. You're just deep. You do not know how deep this goes. But there are incredibly powerful ideological interests that are invested in manufacturing this idea of asymmetrical female victimhood because it's a money spinner. It makes money. Women as victims, specifically women as victims because they're victims, makes money. And the people who are making money like that not only are ignoring male victims, but they're also ignoring science that would reduce the rate of female victimhood. And why are they doing that? They have no invested reason to reduce the number of female victims. That would reduce their income. So this is there is some you are a little baby. You are a little baby. Okay.
Yep. No idea. Okay, well let's keep going.
the question we have to ask is, what do those words even mean?
Good Lord.
I see that sentence. Of course, seeing that sentence isn't quite as clear as how I've written it there, because the word man, we'll spot the weasel word there, that can mean anything. And the word internet, that's basically a euphemism. We could be talking about any parts of the internet. So let's get frickin' specific, fellas. So let's look at the word man first. Masculinity can be anything, depending on who you ask. If you ask a biologist, it's you having a Y chromosome. Don't ask why.
Yeah, it's almost like it's designed so that you can't talk about it. It's almost like that's the reason why it's treated as a social construct. And now you can't discuss femininity either because it's essentially oppressive to women. Both of them are, in fact. But,
everything leads. All roads lead to oppression of women. I'm just curious. Like, I'm curious where he's going with this, because he made a very strong statement at the beginning about all of the abuse that boys and men are suffering. And you know what? I get it, because I got some guy on my Twitter saying, well, I'm a big, strong man. I can handle it. I can shoulder this burden of misandry and constant hatred of men. And I'm like, yeah, but they do it to boys too. You want boys to do this? Like, you want boys to live in this world? You want boys to live in what he was showing? Like the sheer contempt and disregard that was being displayed for boys. Do you want boys growing up in that? Like a little 6-year-old boy doesn't know anything, just a little innocent. All he wants to do is have a goldfish and play soccer, and he has to shoulder the burdens of feminist misandry, or even like feminist traditionalist misandry. Like, is that what you want for the world? But I'm curious, like, he's going into, how do you define men and masculinity? Well, I mean, obviously, those people you first showed, those women felt that men and masculinity was defined as being useless. And of course, the man versus bear thing defined as being harmful and dangerous and exploitative and rapey. I mean, this is what you're telling that little 6-year-old boy with has his goldfish and wants a puppy, wants to play soccer. You're telling him, take responsibility because you are evil. Like, you're going to grow up to be evil, kid. You're going to grow up to be the most hateful creature on the planet. It's time for you to buck up, man up. Or you want to cry about that? Well, here's a backhand. Like honestly, okay, so let's see what he's going to say.
All right, let's get back to it.
right? If you wanted to figure out what masculinity was according to traditional Western values, you might stumble upon something called hegemonic masculinity. This is the one that often gets critiqued in like those big long think pieces. The masculinity that makes this guy the breadwinner, makes him stoic, competitive, tough, strong, dominant, and also my son can't be gay. Boys don't cry. Of course, if we dial the clock back even further, toward dynastic China, pre-modern China, we get a different answer, wherein masculinity was largely shaped by two concepts, when and wu. When is your cultural accomplishment, so this might be art, calligraphy, how much you contribute to society, and wu is your martial prowess. If we bring things a bit more...
Okay, but that's exactly the same. Okay, I wanted to say dumbass, but those are two ways of saying the same thing. Like, I mean, honestly, Guy, are you gonna point to two pictures and one says sphere and the other says round and say, oh, these are two different things? No, sphere and ball. You know, like you got that little round thing in the corner there. Oh, it's a sphere. No, it's a ball. Well, those are two very different things. No, they're not. That's just manhood in the Chinese cultural context, and that was manhood in the Western, business context. They're the same.
Well, it's based in the Stoicism, so it's actually like the Western
An
version is
achievement.
older. Yeah.
Well, no, the Chinese version was like Confucian. It was like from
Yeah, no,
millennia
I
ago.
know, but I'm saying when you said that the business, like, the Western business
Yeah, you're probably
context,
right,
and I was
yeah.
saying that I think but the Western business context is downstream from a more, Greek, Stoic / like,
Exactly.
Protestant. These are all like connected. It's like a thread, and it's very similar. Like you said, it's not really different from the Chinese version. They're just using different words, and maybe they have a slightly different framework, but it's I
the
mean, like,
same.
yeah, it's all the same everywhere. Like masculinity is basically the same everywhere. So it doesn't change that much. So anyway. Should I play more?
Masculinity according to incels. Here you just be a Chad or no one cares. And should no one care, write a manifesto. Yeah, that's the next move. And then finally,
You are an asshole. Okay, right here. You have no compassion at all for men who are struggling.
Yeah.
Like the contempt you have. Okay, incels are the men who are not being picked, essentially. Who don't have prospects in our society. All right, and you're already expressing contempt towards them. So what do you have to offer?
Well, there's a section in here on it, right?
Yeah, I know. I've already watched some of it, but let's keep going.
All right, let's get back to it.
autocomplete that masculinity is a social construct, toxic, fragile, and in crisis. All of these different ways to see being a man. Now, all those different perspectives, I guess there's, usually a time and a place where they are useful.
Wait a second, you're missing one. You're missing one. A bucket for everything wrong with humanity. Because that's what the first thing you showed.
Do you mean
seriously.
toxic masculinity? What do you mean?
No. Yeah, well, I guess toxic masculinity, but he's calling it hegemonic masculinity. He's completely omitting the framework of masculinity. Like he says, hegemonic masculinity, a social construct. Well, what about everything you showed at the beginning? Masculinity is a bucket to hold everything wrong with humanity. That's what you showed at the beginning. That's what he showed at the beginning. And he's omitting it now as a definition of masculinity. Why is that? Like, what are you trying to do here?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's play some more. Hold on a second.
I think debating over the word man is something that people will probably be doing forever. So with the idea that there are just many, slightly more tangible part of this definition, according to the internet, which, according to Lady Gaga, is a toilet. The internet is a toilet. It truly is, man. How to be a man according to the internet. So earlier I mentioned that this was a euphemism. When we say the internet, what are we really saying? We're really saying
how to be a man. How to be a man. So how to gain value as a man, basically. Right? And Look, okay, let's continue. I know we have to banana occasionally. Sorry, guys, you got to
No, it's
tolerate
okay.
that. But let's
all
just let him say what he has to say.
On our smartphone. Here's a nice little article from the 1950s. None at all. So the reason that I think is because you look at the unused statistics and it's like 8 hours a day, and then you also look at the socializing statistics and it's going down, and so you're like, human interaction is getting replaced by media interaction at scale. Also, none of this is a judgment on anyone, by the way. If you use your phone a lot and you feel bad about that, I don't blame you. I blame the phone, dude. Gen Z, you guys got freaking whomped. I can only imagine how hard it would be to have these things in high school. But that will come clear. Because when we're talking about a smartphone, we are actually talking about the way that we get the sort of more wild information. Social media.
Pause it for the banana just to say. I wonder if he's going to mention that social media is basically dominated and run by women. I don't suspect he will. Like that they literally set the tone and they are the ones that make the judgments on what men are worth. And that includes the so-called male influencers. Their effectiveness is dictated by women's approval, in my opinion. And but that's probably not going to come up, is what I suspect.
Okay, be advised, world, if you have a penis, you probably deserve murdering. Be well advised, world, if you have a penis, you probably deserve murdering. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Okay, let's keep going.
All right, back to this.
Advised, world, if you have a penis, you probably deserve murdering. It's a bit extreme, but extreme is the... What we're really talking about is an ecosystem of media businesses fracking what's left of your attention with god-tier slot machine mechanics pushing whatever content is best optimized for limbic hijack and time theft in the name of maximizing shareholder growth. Selling ya.
1 million subscribers, guys. Okay, this guy has 1 million subscribers. 1 million. We have like maybe 10,000, right? Who do you think is fracking the limbic system here? You have nothing to speak on. Whatever you do, the algorithm loves you. Maybe that makes you just a better content creator. I wouldn't argue with that. I'm never intended to I never started my life saying, hey, I want to make content on YouTube. I want to be a media or even like a media person or a promoter. I was like, I want to be an artist and a writer. And then this issue of men's issues became really important to me. So that's what I sort of segued into. But I just want to point out that based on this argument, I mean, he's got a million subscribers from 120 videos. He's obviously hitting some aspect of fracking the limbic system. You know? Has he considered that? Okay, never mind. Let's keep going.
All right. Yeah, let's continue. I'm gonna switch scenes here.
Honestly, this is getting boring. I mean, because the other thing is that he shows that level of extremism, and he's shown it at the beginning, but I'm wondering where he's going with it. Like I know where he's going with it, but you know, let's move to the next section.
All right, you want me to jump ahead to the next
or
bit?
If you want,
the algorithm loves it. Well, no. I think we can skip some of this because essentially this is the thing that I've noticed a lot is that when people like this guy, and this is just one example, there's lots of people, a lot of women making content very similar. They're like, Lauren Southern made a video that was sort of like along the same lines where she was saying, oh, it's all about, and essentially when it comes to what's going on with men, it seems like instead of landing on, well, maybe there's something about like the conversation or the way that we treat men or the way that we think of men's existence in our lives, you know, either and in the present as well as historically, and how these like ideas that men have always oppressed women throughout history, therefore they're deserving of less sympathy. Like all of these things could be a problem that's sort of like starting to multiply on itself exponentially, and there's going to be like, it's going to come to a point where men are just going to walk away and we're not going to have any of their help, and you know, we don't really deserve it because we have essentially allowed this to happen. They could be doing that, but it seems like when the opportunity to talk about men's issues comes up, they go, it's not about men, it's about capitalism. This is what really frustrates me, because that's what he's saying. He's like, "Oh, this is just people maximizing the shareholders are trying to maximize profits, so they're just using men to do it, or they're creating or emboldening like negative engagement towards men instead of addressing like, well, why is there negative engagement towards men? Why are men being treated this way? Why is this our reality?" But no, he can't do that, because that would mean he have to like, question his entire life paradigm, which he's not willing to do. But, you know what? I'll blame capitalism. That's what I'll do. I'll blame the greedy corporations for doing that. That's why he says the algorithm likes it. He's trying to trick people into thinking that this thing that you see is happening, it's not happening. It's not really misandry. It's capitalism, guys. Help us fight it. Because I can accept that, The other thing they can't. So anyway. So he says the algorithm loves it. I don't really care. It loves it for you because you're saying the things the algorithm likes. The biggest predictor of engagement. Do you want that one?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it.
Okay, let's go to that one then.
The single biggest predictor of whether a post will get high engagement is how much it dunks on an outgroup. Not how much it confirms a belief, but how much it confirms the war. So even bigger than the volume of ideas are people negating straw men of those ideas. Basically making these sock puppets and then just like bashing them down, caricaturizing an entire ideology into one thing and then just being like, that sucks. And that sucks. Here's what happens next.
What do you mean the bank is out of money? Insolvent? You only have enough cash for the next 3 customers. Hey,
just pausing
yeah,
for
so
the banana
yeah,
there.
just I mean, I don't think there's going to be much of a banana with this one, but let's keep going.
The problem isn't the gamut of opinions. It's not even the people. No, it's what Marshall McLuhan identified in the 1960s. It's the medium is the message. If your medium is one that tells people that the best way to get your message out to as many people as possible is to be extreme and tribalistic, then yeah, even the most benign sentences start to look like a flame war. And it makes sense that the more time you spend in a medium like that, the more time you will start believing that there are sides or groups. You might actually even be feeling it right now. We can do a quick little test. Is there any part of your brain that still kind of has that weird like brainwashing from social media that's trying to sort me into an abstract team? Is he red pill? Is he blue pill? Is he pro-men or pro-women? Which one is he? Is he a leftist, current apologist?
Well, I think you are going to reveal yourself as soon as you set up your sides. You're going to reveal what side you're on. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, there are sides.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, I mean, there's definitely the side that demands
Funny
you
how that happens,
pick
isn't
a
it?
side. That's the funny thing. It's like when feminists framed the relationship between the sexes in terms of oppression, they constructed this whole idea of picking a side. That you had to act. There were sides to pick between men and women. Like before then, did you have to pick up a side? No, because there was no side. There was only men and women cooperating for the betterment of their families and their communities and society. So it's like right there, you can't get away from the fact that feminists demanded that sides be picked. Okay. And I mean, when I talk about things, I'm like, the idea that there is ultimately a side between men and women is destructive. That idea that there is men oppressing women is destructive, and but let's find out what sides he thinks there are.
Yeah.
Are you bored? You're sighing.
Games. They're just people. But it doesn't always feel like that. Our brains are hardwired for groups. Yeah, even something as simple as a coin flip or, wearing a different colored jersey can make us feel tribalistic. So it goes to stand that probably if you are a young teenage boy looking at the internet, getting most of your information from the internet, these sides might feel quite tangible.
Really? You think? Like, wait. These sides might feel tangible. Did we not watch that video? Do you remember the video? The beginning.
Yeah, sure.
All of the contempt.
Do we need men? And the women are like, no. You mean that video?
Yeah, that video. Are men a part of our future? No. Did you watch that? You think that boys are going on and they're thinking, what do you think boys' response to watching stuff like that is going to be? And also listening to their teachers, and also having to learn things like that they are oppressors of women. I mean, that itself is an extremist concept. And this is the framework that I don't think that this guy has ever stepped out of. We live in an extremist society. We are all a part of the extremism. We all ingest it. We all have it inside ourselves. Because to some degree, unless you have taken the steps to actively question it, we are all touched by this narrative, this contemptible narrative of oppression. Okay? And boys grow up in it. This is what they grow up with. They grow up with a condemnation of their gender identity as being the worst thing in the world. Literally. Like, patriarchy is what? It's responsible for all human ill. Toxic masculinity is responsible for everything negative about being human. Right? How much worse does it get for boys and their identity? And then they go on the internet and they see things like kill all men. Be advised, if you have a penis, you deserve murdering. And all of the other, there's men are useless. There's nothing, I'd choose the bear over a man. Like, and then you have the audacity to be like, and these boys think they have to choose a side. Well, I wonder why. Okay, maybe he addresses this, because I think I skipped a bit of this section, but let's see.
Well, do you want to hate yourself, or would you prefer to worship a rapist? Which one? Just pick. Pick. Go. If you're a 16-year-old boy, you got to make that choice, I guess.
So he's talking about Andrew Tate. So he creates the dichotomy, and then he makes you choose, and then you choosing is picking sides.
Well, I mean, he might be
created the sides. The sides are you either hate yourself or you worship a rapist. That's what he chose. When he said just now, we all pick teams. Here are the two teams that you guys are a part of. So he's all automatically creating a false dichotomy. Completely. He's basically just creating two extreme sides and saying you got to choose one. No man, even the ones that are dealing with the modern world as it is, as anti-male as it is doing this. No man is doing this. But he's framing it this way because he's got the 1 billion IQ. That's why. This is more high IQ internet bullshit. I can't stand this shit. I can't stand these fucking people. But anyway, let's hear some more. I'm sure that's what it is. I'm sure that's what it is. But let's do it.
Brian has not seen this at all. I have.
Do nothing.
Are you going to refine that?
What?
I'm going to see what he refines his spectrum a bit, but let's keep going.
All right, I'm going to go back a little bit just so I hear it better.
Weird, right? So what do? Well, do you want to hate yourself, or would you prefer to worship a rapist? Which one? Gotta make that choice. I guess neither. Do nothing. And that's exactly what we're saying.
It's hard to be convincing when you say men are in trouble. After all, look around us. All 45 US presidents have been men, and probably the next president will be one too. If you look at the S&P 500 a few years ago, there are actually more CEOs named Michael or James than there are women CEOs, period.
Wow, what an astounding insight. Okay. Also, the ratio of CEOs to ditch diggers and sewer workers is much higher or much lower for men than it is for women. Women are about, I think, one CEO per maybe 100, maybe 10 women sewer workers. And men are one CEO per a couple 100,000 or maybe 1,000 sewer workers. I mean, if you include all the really bad jobs, couple 100,000. So for whatever reason, and people don't want to point this out, there's a selective pressure for women out of the worst jobs. So women aren't taking the worst jobs, and they're being selectively maneuvered up into the CEO positions instead. Okay.
Men aren't president of the United States. It's easy to.
Let me give you an idea of how this works. If you have 100 men and 100 women, one woman will be selected for CEO, and maybe 5 men will be selected for CEO. 80 men will be selected for the most dangerous, destructive, physically impactful, potentially deadly jobs in the world. And only about maybe 1 or 2 women will be in those jobs, maybe 5. That's it. Then all the other women, the rest of them, will be in middle management, will be in air conditioning or service, will not be doing dangerous, difficult, risky work. All right. So, and they look at that situation where you have, I don't know, 98% of women in a materially better position than 80% of men, and they say that it's a situation that favors men. Really? Because on top, in the CEO position, there are more men. Okay.
The men that are doing well, and realize that the majority of men are not hanging on so well.
Is that their fault? Is that men's fault that they're not doing so well? Whose fault is it? Wasn't this the point of the last couple generations? Wasn't this the point of the future is female? That men not be doing as well as they did? Okay. I'll be quiet.
Join a misogynist cult. What's your next step? Basically do nothing, which I think for a lot of young men would manifest as porn, gaming, and bongs. Neat. Not in education, employment, or training.
63% of young men are single. During COVID, the decline in enrollment was 7 times higher for men. 71% of males held a full-time job in 2021, down from 85%. Youth unemployment, it has risen to 15.2% in the UK.
That's pretty bad news. And it gets worse. So with all that spare time, you are 3 times more likely to develop an alcohol dependency and 3 times more likely to report frequent drug use.
Now, just be mindful. Sometimes when you hear sad statistics about a group that you are part of, there is a part of you that reacts not with sadness, but almost with joy. Not because you're happy, but because you feel validated, because you feel seen. Because you've been going through something, and like any human, you need empathy. And if you don't feel like you deserve it, stats can give you that authority. Like, yes, I knew I wasn't going crazy. I knew that there was something up. But this same mechanism can become defensive when you hear similar stats about outgroups. So while men had it worse in education and healthcare, women had it worse in employment and unpaid labor, and much, much worse in domestic violence. But yeah.
No, they didn't. That's a bald-faced lie.
Oh, you're getting defensive, Allison. Don't get defensive.
I'm getting defensive
he just
because
he just explained the chemicals in your brain might react, and you might get defensive. And here you
because
are
I
getting defensive. Let's get in this
regard
strudel
women
session now.
as an out group. Like,
yeah, women are out groups. Come on,
an
guys.
out group
Don't we
for
know?
me? Like, seriously, I regard women as an out group. I'm sorry. Here, I have my woman card. Okay, obey the freaking.
Please don't ban us, YouTube.
Yeah, please don't ban us. Like, but seriously.
We just got a boost on Twitch, though. Go ahead.
But seriously, okay, those are my women are not an out group card. That right there. Okay, guy, screw you. Screw you. All right, and I'm saying this deep from within my female cockles, whatever the hell those are. This whole idea, like this immediate segue into women have to be the biggest victims, is foisting a particular identity on women. And that is lacking agency relative to men. The consequences of their actions are less important, are less meaningful in the greater world. It's this learned helplessness. And what's interesting is the awareness of your effect on the outside world. Your effect on the outside world is a huge component of theory of mind and awareness, like or self-awareness, like of a conscious being, of being literally. This is the test of whether an animal has a similar consciousness level to humans. Is it aware of itself in the greater world? And you are basically, by making women out to be victims, you are forcing a particular identity on them of just being acted upon rather than being actors in the greater world. So screw you on that level, right? There is a balance to be struck here. Men have every right to feel validated when they are told that they have problems and they recognize those problems in their own life, okay? And you framing it as in, oh, but you don't, that if you get that, you can't question whether or not women have problems. Bullshit. I'm going to question that because because in our society, there is a huge pressure to deny men's problems and to exaggerate women's problems. And you can see, like, we have statistical evidence that we do that. We have ideological evidence. We have evidence of feminists going into domestic violence studies or framing domestic violence studies in order to present domestic violence as asymmetrical, with men doing it to women. Okay? So yes, we can call this out. Those aren't, this is a false equivalence. When like, and he starts off, oh, men are supposed to be stoic, not talk about their problems. But don't get too sucked into talking about your problems, men. You might start to forget women's problems. Screw you. Can we just have the conversation about men's problems without this preemptive, yeah, but don't go too far. Don't go too far. You might cease to be useful for women's problems. Like,
also, there are no teams.
Can I escape? Can I escape from having problems? Like, can I escape from having needs that constantly need to be served? Can I escape from that role? Is it possible? I don't mean to be aggravating, but like, is it? It's like, is there a space for women who are like, you know what? I'd like to exist without a constant emphasis on how I am hard done by, how life sucks, and how I constantly have needs that need to be served. No offense. Like,
none taken.
Okay.
All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, I just want to bring that up because I don't want anyone to really feel shame about their reactions when they hear stats. If you get defensive, if you feel vindicated, I don't think it's anything to worry about. What matters is getting your brain beyond the reactions to solutions. Now, if that option doesn't entice you, there's always suicide. Fellas, we are killing it, and by it, I mean ourselves. So, this is one of my best mates. I lost him last December to suicide. I love this dude so much, and I don't know, man. Like, it's just real, you know what I mean? But yeah, suicide is the leading cause of death for men under 50 years old. And what concerns me here is the data on how many men talk about it and how many men just speedrun it. So of all psych referrals in the UK, it's only a bit over a third are men, but of all their suicides, 3/4 are men. So
it's not because the men in the UK, specifically, very specifically, it's not because they are not getting help or going to mental health or social services, because they are. Most of the men who end up killing themselves have gone to a doctor or a therapist, right? In fact, they are in contact with it months before their suicide. So the idea that they're not getting, well, first of all, they're not getting referrals. Well, is that on them? Referrals are something generally your doctor does. And honestly, I can understand why they get less referrals. Because think about it. Men aren't screened for things like sexual abuse. They aren't screened for things like domestic abuse. They aren't screened for things like depression based on a hostile work environment. Like, they're nowhere are they given any idea or any concern over these things that they might experience. So at no point is anybody in this NHS, I think that's the UK one, are they stopping and saying, hey, is this particular man experiencing domestic violence or sexual abuse or harassment? They don't, because he's a man. So why would they be giving him referrals, right? Oh, he might be experiencing some negative health outcomes as a result of being a new father. Nope. nope, postpartum depression doesn't exist for men, except that it does. Oh, he might be experiencing negative things as a result of losing his relationship with his children, or his marriage breaking down. Is there any screening for that? No. There's no screening. There's no point in a man's life where anybody in this medical health industry thinks, oh, hey, he might be going through some shit. Maybe he should be referred to a psychiatrist. And if he is, God help him. Like if he ends up with a feminist one, he's just going to blame him for his own problems. But whatever. But anyway, there's no point. The men are not being recognized as having issues. That's why they're not being referred. And you're going to blame men for that. For a society that simply does not recognize that when men go through life changes or negative experiences, that they might need assistance of some kind. And maybe the referrals shouldn't be to therapists. Maybe they should be to, I don't know, men seem to do better with group therapy, or alternatively therapies that involve actual activities, fishing, building something, going out and doing something with your friends, stuff like that. But is there any point in the system where there's any consideration for men going through things in their life? No. That's why they don't get the referrals. And are they to blame for that?
Well, let's find out. Maybe. I don't know.
It sounds like he already is.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what he says.
I don't know. I tried to lighten this section by having like Nate or Yate. He'd laugh. He'd find this hilarious. But yeah, this is pretty freaking dark. For why men don't talk about their mental health, got some qualitative data here. I've learned to deal with it, 40%. Don't wish to be a burden on anyone, 36. Too embarrassed, 29. Negative stigma around that type of thing, 20. The thing that I think combines these two, neat and yeet, is, let's say neat is comfort. It's the absence of challenge. And suicide is the absence of life. So the less we have to overcome, the more likely it'll all feel meaningless. Of course, like so much data.
I don't know. I think this guy has some serious stuff he's not processing.
Say again. What was that?
I said that I think this man, just judging from what that sound he just made, I think he has some serious stuff he's not processing. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't have a wife who's like, if he cries, she's disgusted.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, hopefully not somebody who disgusts him when he expresses his emotions. But and also I will say, for the thing where I've learned to deal with it is probably another way of saying I don't want to be a burden on other people, because I think in general that's the reason why men do it. And they'd rather you think that they're okay because you realizing or them sharing with you that they don't want to be a burden is actually going to make them feel as though they're making themselves into a burden. So they're not going to say it. Sorry.
Well, yes. And I was going to point that out too. This is basically the leading cause is what I've said multiple times on this show. Men don't want to feel like a burden. And if the primary thing that men are expressing about depression, well, depression can make you feel like a burden, right? And it can make you feel like the solution to you being a burden is to yeet yourself, right? So one of the symptoms of depression, one of the most critical symptoms of depression may be feeling like a burden, right? What does our society do to men but make them feel like a burden on everything? On women, basically.
On women specifically.
Women specifically, yes.
Yeah, that's what is the bear meme, if not that? That men are a burden to women.
Everything is just, men are useless, men are a burden, right? And that is the primary symptom of depression. So in that sense, our society is inculcating depression in boys and men by forcing them to feel like a burden through constant repetition of this. And so that and I remember we listened to Healthy Gamer, and he talked about how feeling like over identifying yourself as the problem is the big symptom of depression. which then leads to suicide. So our society over-identifies men and boys as the problem. What a surprise. They are experiencing depression. And he talks about speed-running suicide. Well, okay, let's just unpack that. Men and boys have to live in a society that is deliberately targeting them with the kind of speech that causes them to believe that they are a burden, that they are the problem, which is basically depression. We are inculcating depression in men and boys. Like we as a society, we have chosen to do this. This is how we are interacting with men and boys as a society. Okay? Why are men speedrunning depression? Because the instant they no longer, like, remember I was talking about how the guy who focused on getting the pictures up instead of recognizing that he didn't like them? When men are no longer able to focus on their relationships as a source of value for themselves and being able to serve the people they're with, then all of that societal messaging just comes crashing down. You are a burden. And they speed run the suicide because they have nothing else. Like the thing that was keeping that tidal wave at bay was their ability to serve the people in their life. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
And once something happens, maybe they lose a job, maybe they lose a partner, maybe they lose a kid, something like that happens, that wall breaks down, the tidal wave comes through, and then they're gone. Because they have nothing else. Because this society has eroded everything else. All right.
All right. Let's get back to it.
Their reason for existence, they go stark raving mad. Thankfully, we do have a secret fifth option.
Oh, did we get through, before we get into the secret fifth option, which really isn't, but the secret fifth option is basically inventing the map to the oasis. That's going to solve everything when you're lost in a desert. Just imagine an oasis and draw a map to it. But that spectrum he made, did you notice that on one side was kill all men, and then on the other side was,
Where was it?
Oh shoot, guys, I might dip out. I might end up leaving because I think we're having a bit of a brownout. Shit.
Oh, your internet might stop?
Might crap out. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
No. Well, let's pray to the
internet
Jesus.
gods. Pray to the voles. Pray to the Saskatchewan internet voles. Okay, but I'm pretty sure has he put up the spectrum yet? Maybe it's a little bit later. It on one side it had kill all men, and on the other side it had if you were my daughter, I might commit a felony. Did you hear that yet? Oh
no, but I did skip a bit. The algorithm loves it.
Yeah, the algorithm loves. Yeah.
And I think we skipped a little bit of it. So, well, let's see if it comes up. I'll switch over to that scene. We'll play it.
Of what we learn about understanding the crisis. Firstly, if there is a crisis or if there isn't a crisis, it does not hurt to show compassion towards young men. If anything, it makes life easier for everybody. Empathy is not a finite resource. It's more like a snowball. The more you give, the more you get. Secondly, we learn that human interaction is being replaced by media interaction at scale. Oh, that's troubling. Thirdly, we cover the fact that the messages that we receive online are often written by a tiny sliver of a platform's users by people who are highly incentivized to create an outgroup and then dunk on it, and any alleged evidence of this crazy outgroup, like a really messed up post, is often just evidence of one crazy person. This is a schism that we are seeing reflected politically all over the world.
All right, I want to pause it there for a second because
this is why I don't talk about crazy Twitter users that often unless I'm illustrating a point or an argument. Because I'm not going for the outliers, dude. I'm going right for the academic feminism. right?
I was gonna say, like,
the
these
media.
aren't the crazy people on Twitter
Is
or
the
making
Guardian all a
the
bunch of
bedroom
crazies?
feminists and the, you know, talking about kill all men. This isn't even like the guy on the street asking women questions about men and hearing their retarded ass responses. This is about people in positions of tremendous power and influence that like run our media. The media that you claim is actually just farming for the shareholders. They're actually creating these narratives. Sorry to tell you, this is again, he's pretending like, oh guys, there's no teams, but then he's constructing teams. And then when I point out that there is a team, there are sides, and it's not like, you know, it's like when people say we're in the midst of a culture war, right? No, there's no culture war. There are people destroying everything, and then there are people who are trying to keep it together. That's not a war. That's like barbarians, you know, at your fortress, and you're just trying to keep them away. Like that's what it is, and that's what feminism is doing to men, to women, to relationships, to families, to our government, at writ large. Your word, not mine. All over. Like that's not that. There's no teams, dude. Like I want to go live in the country that's run by the patriarchy because this ain't it. You know, maybe I get like a fair shot. Maybe I would be able to own some land and like start my own business, you know, without having to like navigate this feminized. Maybe BlackRock doesn't own all the companies, you know, but again, he's going to pretend like this is like, I'm going to bring the never before discovered or heard of nuance to the conversation by first misrepresenting everybody and then stepping in and saying, man, you guys got this all wrong. It's a good thing I figured it all out. And here's the answer. And it's going to be something really stupid that we've already covered. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would have to agree with you. And the thing is that he doesn't realize that he's already in an extremist position. Like, you look at that framework.
Well, he's already strawmanning the men's side of the conversation. He strawmanned the shit out of it. So now that he's this is what they always do. They create a person, or they create an ideology, a side. They build it, you know, and then they knock it down with their logic. And they're like, look at how easily defeated that was. I must be super smart. It's I don't know.
Okay, well, here's the big problem. Okay? On one side, we have media, we have academia, we have NGOs, we have the government, all invested in a particular narrative, which is men oppress women and construct society for their own benefit at the expense of women.
We got the United Nations doing that.
Yeah, we got.
It's crazy disproportionate.
Every institution who buys into this narrative, right? All on one side, all of it. And then you have a couple commentators on the internet who are using the algorithm that is constructed to make money in order to drive hits, and they use controversy to do it, and they're basically just feeding off of, you know, everything on that side. They're not really offering an alternative. They're just teasing it in order to get like a little bit, like to divert some of the attention. So you have the central belief system, and then you have the central belief system's series of fools and designated trolls and controlled opposition, right? These two are not equal. In fact, you think that there's a spectrum with feminism and Andrew Tate, but they're actually both on the same side because they both define men in the same way, right? The other group you have not identified. The other group that is an alternative to the feminist definition of masculinity. I mean, the only difference that I would say with Andrew Tate is that he takes the feminist definition of masculinity, you know, brings out, I guess, the more positive aspects, the pro-social aspects of being a playboy, but he's still defined in feminist terms. Like this is like a couple episodes ago. We were responding to someone else who said, Andrew Tate is a 13-year-old boy's idea of manhood. Well, he's also a feminist woman's idea of manhood. Like, so they're both there, right? And then who's over here? Who's over here? You don't even know who's over here. You haven't even looked. But you're not, because you're still in the same framework. You're still in the same framework. You are still on the sinking ship. And it is sinking. This whole structure that's based on the idea that men oppress women, that the primary driving force between the relationship between men and women is oppression, it's sinking, right? And what's really aggravating when I listen to this guy is that not only is he not willing to acknowledge that he is within the sinking ship, which is this extremism, which is sinking, but he's encouraging other people to stay in it. And we're going to see that. Okay, let's keep going.
Young Gen Z men are drifting towards the right. Young Gen Z women are drifting towards the left. This is happening in North America, East Asia.
They're drifting out.
Say again.
Gen Z men are not drifting towards the right. They're drifting out of politics, except for in South Korea, where they are going right. Slightly less fast than women are going left.
Yeah, they're going slightly right. So, and it is a reaction, but that's fair, isn't it? So, anyway, let's keep going. Yeah, women are just going completely off the rails.
Even where I live here in New Zealand. Next, we cover the fact that lots of young men are just tapping out. They feel disenfranchised. So a lot of young dudes are just rejecting institutions, and yeah, plenty of young dudes are also just rejecting life. And finally, we cover the fact that young men don't want to be in this predicament. They want guidance, they want structure, they want purpose, they want clarity. But lots of them feel understandably confused. I mean, when you're getting so many different competing messages, that is a normal reaction. Today's teenage boys.
No.
What do you mean by competing messages? They're just getting shit on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like literally, they're just getting shit on. And then there's Andrew Tate, who doesn't explicitly shit on them.
Yeah.
It's like this. There's a tsunami of shit being flung at boys. And then there's this one spot, where a little less shit is being flung at them, and everybody's like, why are they going over to this spot where there's less shit being flung at them? Oh, I wonder why. Like, you don't. And the thing is that he starts with this incredibly intensely hateful message towards men and boys. You have no value as men and boys. Not only do you not have value as men and boys, you have no right to have a place to earn value as men and boys. That's the overwhelming message of our society. He goes from that to, there's all kinds of messages being said. Okay, but really, aren't you mostly concerned about the really hateful messages towards men and boys? Like, what? Isn't that really the overwhelming point here? Like, honestly, if we lived in a society where women had this much shit thrown at them, wouldn't that be the point? I mean, because when men were asked, do we need women? I think maybe one of them said no. Everyone else was like, yeah, of course we need women. When women are asked, no, we don't need men.
Actually, none of them said no. One of them said, yeah, I think, because I need someone to do the dishes. So he was trolling. That was the only one that could have been interpreted as negative, but all of them were like, hell yeah, we like women because women are great. And they didn't even think that they assume. I think a lot of guys that answer that way, honestly, they believe that if women were asked the same question, they would answer the same way. They would have that much faith that women would be like, yes, of course we need men. Like how else could I be live the comfortable lifestyle in the first world that I currently have without men? How is it possible that I could feel safe, in a first world country protected by police and firefighters and the military if it weren't for men? And I'm sure that men were thinking that, oh yeah, they would totally say that for us, but they totally didn't. And a lot of it is women are just like, well, I don't want to be seen as needing men, so I gotta they're basically reacting to a potential reaction from women when they say no, because they want other women to be like, yeah, you go, girl. So it's like they're trying to like, it's actually
I have
to
a way of
appeal to
explaining
other
it.
women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. They're signaling to other women.
Mm-hmm.
I have a way of explaining it. Our society gives men and boys no sense that they are valued by women or can earn value from women by any action taken in this society. So there's no sense that men can be valuable to women by doing this or doing this or doing this activity in society. Like, for example, we talked about manhood in China. I'm betting that those men in China thought that by doing great cultural deeds, they would get the ladies. You know, they would get women would appreciate them. Women would be singing, that using that zither type instrument and singing their praises and stuff like that, right? Sorry, I'm interested.
I just don't remember the name of it. I know the string instrument you're talking about, the Chinese one. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but I was just trying to think of it.
Yeah. But so in each of these societies, there's a sense that if men were not innately valued, there at least was a clear pathway to being valued by the society and by women. There is none of that in our society. There is no recognition that men provide any value, nor that they can, as men, earn value. And here's where it sort of comes in with his relationship. When a man has a woman and she values him, it's sort of like a shield against that overwhelming message by society. But should he lose her, then that tsunami hits him full force. And that's probably why, in the event of a relationship breakup or relationship difficulties, men are more likely to commit suicide. They, like she said, they speed run suicide, you know? And is he going to address that? Like any of that? I don't think so. But
Let's
we'll
see.
Well, that tells them that they are toxic, wrong, broken, unwanted, and generally should feel shame for existing. That's pretty messed up. And so, of course, it's no surprise that they don't really feel motivated to try. And of course,
he did.
Certainly those people are, convicted sex traffickers. So,
okay, all right, wait. Why are you poisoning the well for people who tell men they matter?
I mean, like, if there's a side, and that side, by the way, is like essentially our entire culture. It's like everything. No, he's been arrested. I don't know. Like, I don't think there's been a final verdict. It doesn't matter, Allison. Trump was also convicted of 34 felonies, but that doesn't mean that they're guilty of anything. It's just that the systems don't work. The system doesn't work. But anyway, this guy is saying that there is an entire industry that makes all of it flourishes on the hatred of men. That is from social media, influencers at the bottom, feminists just shitting on men, bread tubers, whatever, all the way up to the fucking United Nations. Okay? I'm sure that if there was a NASA paper, it would be shitting on men in there somewhere. If they weren't like astronauts at the top 1%, even then they'd be like, there probably should be more women astronauts. But the whole thing is set up this way. And then one guy, because apparently the only guy that seems to exist to him is Andrew Tate, because there are no other men having this conversation. Because when he brings this up, it's like, oh, I guess it's just the sex trafficker, or it's like this entire society of man-hating institutions. And why are you going to pick that guy? And again, acting like nothing else exists. What is the purpose of this? It is poisoning the well. It is essentially to hoist himself up. Hey, guys, why are you listening to this guy? You could be listening to me. I'm not shitting on you. I'm just shitting on the one guy in the entire internet that says it's okay to be you. So, that's it. This guy's kind of a piece of shit. And I'm sorry that your friend ended his own life, but have you ever thought to ask yourself, how come he didn't come to you for help? Because maybe you weren't very helpful. Maybe you weren't putting out a vibe that said, hey, you can talk to me about your feelings if you're feeling despondent. But no, you wait until afterwards. Now you're like, well, I got to save the men from this man who actually is okay with them.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's sort of almost worse that he's acknowledging all of the stuff that happens to men and boys. Like he's recognizing the contempt, the shaming, and that it's overwhelming, like it's institutional. But then he says, the only person who says you matter is like he's not a convicted sex trafficker as far as I know, but he has this problem. Well, thank God you have this guy to point to, because God forbid you actually engage in this issue in an honest way. Like,
yeah, you should reach out to Roma Army. I understand she invented men's rights activism.
Exactly.
So you can go to her. She's got a bazillion views on TikTok. Go to her.
Let's be honest. Roma would be a better choice than Andrew Tate. Well, maybe not, but I don't know. I mean, it's like similar vibes.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean maybe. But the point is, at least she's somebody else. At least she's somebody else.
Somebody else besides Andrew Tate.
The ultimate straw man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that feminism constructed, like literally that Andrew Tate evinces all of the last things that feminism said that define men that could be passingly pro-social. So he was basically constructed, and then also constructed by the media because they chose to pay attention to him. And this is it. Okay, but let's see. Let's identify. So we've identified what it is that Tate does, which is say that boys and men have value, right? Okay. So are you going to say that to them? Or what's your plan? Let's see.
Let's find out. All right, hold on.
It's probably bad.
Progressives and the left especially seem to not want to acknowledge this, or at least not acknowledge that men might be a group in need of assistance itself. There's a sort of hesitance to talking about men as men. And instead people want to say, well, we just need to be good people. But what does that look like specifically? Because young men especially are asking for a specific path.
Yes, because young men do not have inherent worth. We're not willing to recognize that. And we are also not willing to give them a path to earn worth, which is really what traditionalism does, at the very least. It gives young men a path to earn worth. And China did. It gave the Chinese man a path to earn worth through cultural works and military prowess, So, but we don't have that, because if we were to acknowledge that this is the path through which men earn worth, because they're not going to get it innately, this is the pathway, then we would have to say that this is not the pathway through which women earn worth. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to recognize that actually men deserve to have their own unique things that they offer society and recognition of those things, because if you do that, then you're doing the horrible misogynist thing of excluding women. And you're taking away their rights, the right to have everything, right? Okay, let's see what he has to say. I don't know if he even addresses that the problem is this lack of worth, either the lack of inherent worth or the lack of men and boys having a way to earn worth that's unique to them. Do you see? Okay, why is it that you are okay? Okay, so now we've just completely abandoned getting bombarded by hatred. So we're just assuming the hatred, right? You see what just happened?
Let me look back a little bit. I'm just going to play it again, okay?
Yes. We need to analyze this.
There is a secret fifth option. Code before chaos. What does that mean? So a code, define your own sense of masculinity before getting bombarded by psychopaths.
Okay, all right, stop. See what I'm saying? The secret fifth option. Where is all the tsunami of hatred? Where is it in this little clever diagram?
Oh, does it just come from nowhere?
Yeah. Like where okay, why is it that young men and boys have to define their own masculinity? A task that has stymied philosophers since the beginning of time. And while these young men and boys are defining their masculinity, maybe they could solve the grand unified theory of everything. You know? Like, seriously. And you're asking boys to do, like, teenage boys. Really? No. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe when you're in your 60s, like, you can look back on a life well lived and say, this is the wisdom that I've. But, you know, if you're a 13-year-old boy, isn't that a bit much? Maybe you should just get rid of the freaking, like, why is there no option of yeeting the hatred? Like,
Yeah,
it's just assumed.
No, it is. Well, actually, no. Here's what I think is actually going on here. It says code. Define your own sense of masculinity before chaos, getting bombarded by psychopaths and grifters and simulated pleasure. So psychopaths, I guess, meaning the fringe feminists that hate men online that makes up 1%.
So you think that's where the hatred is? But
no, that's
the
what
comes in well before that.
No, I know, but I'm just laying out what his case is. So code, define your own sense of masculinity before chaos, getting bombarded by psychopaths, feminists, grifters, Andrew Tate, and simulated pleasure, video games and porn, and drugs. So those are the outcomes. A man is either going to find himself bombarded by psychopaths, grifters, or vanishing in simulated pleasure, and he has to define his masculinity before that happens. Okay, so the first part of that I agree with. Define your own sense of masculinity. I think men are trying to do that, and I'm sorry, like it or hate it, Andrew Tate is one of the people offering them an option, because the establishment, the institutions, the education system, the media, the journalists, etc., they offer men nothing, less than nothing. They just tell them that they're bad for society. And there's one guy that says that they're okay, and that is one option. And he does say, define your own masculinity, okay? He's obviously not the only one. But I think that it is important for boys to define their own sense of masculinity. But we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we can also do that while doing something about being bombarded by psychopaths. At least that, because if it weren't for the psychopaths, there wouldn't be grifters, and there might not be as much simulated pleasure, because maybe men would get their satisfaction from something else. If there weren't psychopaths that were acting as active obstacles to a young man's developmental life cycle. So from the moment he goes into school, he has to deal with bias. Then he goes into the workplace, he has to deal with bias. Then in the dating world, he has to deal with biases. And all of these things are negatively affecting him. And there's a constant, like, static field miasma of hatred towards men, or general antipathy and disdain that men have to navigate, especially if they're not people men, which is basically 7s or lower. And they have to manage to somehow survive that without going to grifters like Andrew Tate, or vanishing in porn and video games, which of course they're not supposed to do, because they have to maintain being, like, I don't know, producing value. But we're not encouraging that in them. So we should, as you said, Allison, do something, yeet the chaos. We can do that and also allow men to define their masculinity, or follow a model of masculinity, that they prefer. And on top of that, we could also be encouraging women to follow a sense of femininity and earn something as well, instead of just giving them shit because they're women, because that is also part of this problem, is that women are treated as though they have no work to do, and men have to do all the work to just be seen as men. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, so my interpretation is, first of all, bombarded by sociopaths, that's not the real problem. The rad femmes are not the real problem. It's all of the low-grade fever of defining boys and men by oppressing women, which I'm sure this guy buys into. So he's part of the problem. That has to go. That is the actual ground zero for the problem. the deconstruction of men's identity, the deconstruction of their worth to society. I mean, what happens when you say to a group of people that your primary action in society is detrimental, burdensome, hateful, borderline criminal? Like this is what that narrative says to boys and men, that their actions in society are bad for women. They're the opposite of earning value from women. They're taking value from women, right? That whole narrative is hateful and extremist. We don't even talk about the rad femmes. The rad femmes are amusing. They're basically like they're basically like the clown act at the end of the genocide. Like it just, like they're just the least of it. They're just laugh at them because they're crazy, and they're obviously crazy, and everybody understands they're obviously crazy. The real problem is the crazy stuff that nobody understands is actually crazy, which is men take value from women and society and have no method to provide it back. Well, I mean, they can get a job and earn money, but now that's also oppression. But so that whole structure, that men not only don't have an innate value like women, they have no path to earn value, but whatever they do is taking value away from from women in society. It's turning society into something toxic. And that also masculinity is toxic without any kind of positive. All of that. And it's all seen as sane. And it is a hateful extremism. That needs to be heated. And that happens well before anybody encounters a rad femme on Twitter. But the other thing is that it seems like he identifies that Andrew Tate tells boys and men that they are worth something, like they have value. I don't know if he does. I don't listen to him very closely. No offense. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But why isn't that part of what he's suggesting here? Like, let's yeet all of this stuff that's taking young boys and saying your contribution to society not only doesn't add value, but takes value away, and also you have no value. We get rid of that, we yeet that, and then we also tell them that there is value and there's a way to earn it. Like there's specific things that men do that are valuable to society, and it's specifically men doing them. Like, why can't we do that? Why can't we do what he says Andrew Tate is doing? Like, where is that in this? It's like you're basically saying, here's the problem. Men and boys are experiencing a whole bunch of hatred and bullshit, and you're not even identifying the true source of it, but at least you're acknowledging it. What needs to happen, you see, what needs to happen is boys need to man up. And they need to fix this in themselves. So they need to define a masculinity in complete defiance of everybody in their life. If they don't have a father, their mother, the women who are teaching them, the media, academia, the government, they need to be stronger than all of that. And they need to define an identity in complete exclusion to any external factor. What? Like, that's a big ask. I'm sorry, Brian. Yeah, boys should be able to define their own identity, but they should be given the space and the protection to do so. They shouldn't be, yes, they should have the right to do that, and absolutely it should be respected, but we also should be protecting them through that process. Okay? There's no sense of the he's offering no sense of the responsibility of anything external to the boy. Okay, and I know that, everybody's like, well, men should define themselves, but especially when you're talking about boys, how are they supposed to even find a space to start in this much noise and hatred and guilt and shaming? Like, they're just going to be constantly fighting just to bail water out of the boat, much less actually getting to the point of creating a positive definition for themselves. So right there, this is all just, yeah. And it's appealing. I know that this seems like it would be something that would appeal to men and boys. that, they don't need anyone. They can just define it for themselves. If they need anyone, then that's just somehow cheating or something. And they should be able to define, like, literally, they should be able to build manhood under a hail of bullets. That's so cool. But is it really realistic? Or alternatively, are you just constructing, if you're going to expect boys to somehow maintain a sense of self in a hail of bullets, are you just driving them to the only shelter that they can identify, which is apparently Andrew Tate, who at least says you have value, right? Okay, well, here's like I said, here's an idea. Turn off machine guns. Turn off the machine guns. Build a trench or something, or alternatively, if you can't because you don't control the machine guns, because we don't, build a trench that they can get out of the machine guns. And then, hey, now that you have a little bit of space to think and cogitate and room and safety, go ahead, figure out who you are. Like, but that doesn't seem to be anywhere in this. Again, it's just, yeah, boys need to take responsibility for all of society hating them and being able to manage to magic up a positive identity despite it all. Her. Like, okay. And again, I think men are great and boys are slightly annoying, but they become men, so they're great too. But at the same time, as your people, there's limits to what can be expected from men and boys, realistically. All right. I hope that is not insulting.
To who?
To men and boys.
Oh, no, I don't think so. All right.
Okay.
Simulated pleasure. Got some very insightful words here from Jermaine Greer. Human beings have an inalienable right to invent themselves. When that right is preempted, it is called brainwashing.
Then turn off.
Anyone?
Then turn off the hail of shame and guilt. Like, you are completely, you have recognized that men are under fire, but you are not suggesting that they take cover. Instead, you are suggesting they become bulletproof. Sir, that is bullshit. Okay.
You want to be, but if the chaos gets in before you set your code, it's basically cold.
When do you think boys are exposed to feminism?
Oh.
Say again, Allison.
I said, when do you think boys are first exposed to feminism? When do you think boys are first exposed to the idea that women have more value than them? Like, that's when this, he says, get in before the chaos. Well, when's that? Like 3, 2, prenatal?
He quoted Jermaine Greer, so.
Yeah, you basically tuned out as soon as that happened.
I am like, I was way before that. I knew where this was going from, because it's always the same. Like I said, these people are really predictable. Like, it's always the same. It's always the same shit. It's like, oh, men are in trouble, and I don't want them to. But what's really scary is that they might go to the scary person direction. I can't have that, so let me quote a feminist at them and then tell them that this one is totally one of the good ones and you'll be okay. I mean, I don't know. It's just, look, I think we could keep going if you want. You want to go to this peak, or sure you played through this? This is just a slog.
Yeah.
All right, let's get through this. These New Zealanders, man, I swear. Go back to your shires.
Well, according to that staunch biology teacher from season 3 Community, played by the great Okay, Williams, playing Omar in the Wild.
A man got to have a code.
This man has got to have an acronym, CODE. Yes, an easy structure, so I will not pretend that I have any of the answers. However,
okay,
so it says compass, where you're going, outlets, what you do, dream team, who you're with, earned, how it feels. Well, stop you right there. Stop you right there, buddy. They're not going to let. This sounds like some really common sense shit that any normal man would do if he had the freedom, especially if he was a young man, and the ability to form associations with men who are going to support him. Guess what? That's not allowed in our current time. Not easily, anyway. It's not encouraged for sure.
Isn't that this is basically the same as what was it? Lawyer up, hit the gym, lift.
Yeah, just live, bro. Just you know what? You have problems. Just stop having them, dude. You feeling
just work harder.
Ending yourself? Yeah, just don't. How have
you
tried
feel like a burden?
Have you tried not doing that?
Do you feel like a burden? Here's more of a burden. You haven't burdened yourself enough with all this crap. Like, honestly, why don't we just have somebody tell men and boys, or particularly boys in particular, since we're really concerned about them, and we should be, why don't we have somebody tell boys? I was just kidding when I said boys are annoying. They're very rambunctious. That's good. But why don't we tell boys? Why don't we say, okay, Andrew Tate is telling boys and men that they have value. Why don't we just tell boys and men that they have value? Oh, right. You can't do that because that means you're excluding women from something, women and girls from something, which is probably why he's not suggesting it, because he can't do it.
And also because Andrew Tate does it, so we can't do what he does because that makes us like him.
I'm making this video because I think I've got a decent shot at asking the right questions, and I think that these are those. Where you going, what you do, who you with, how it feels. Defining those before getting...
All right. None of this... Boys and men are told that they are valueless and that there is no way that they can earn value. And in fact, that their contributions to society are a net loss for women. Okay? This is the crap they're told. And I know there's plenty of men who'll say, wow, I'm a man. I'm an island unto myself. I just tough it out. Well, what about the boys? This is what they're told. This is what they grow up believing about themselves. Instead of saying, before you get enticed by somebody who says you have value, like, why don't we just say that they have value, or that they have the means to earn value unique to men? Like, instead of just saying this, why don't we just call out the hatred? Like, you see what I'm saying, Brian? It's like, you know, men and boys exist in a hail of bullets. Well, why don't we call that out? Why don't we say that's wrong? You know, why don't we just say, yeah, that we shouldn't be doing that? Like, we need to follow this 12-step plan to dealing with the society that... Why should boys have to do this? Like, this is being forced by a society that's promoting hatred of men and boys. Why should they have to do this? Now, I'm not saying that it's necessarily, I mean, obviously we have to deal with the world that exists until we can turn those machine guns off. So yeah, dig trenches, learn the discipline to avoid getting sniped. All of that's necessary, but we should never forget that there shouldn't be machine guns in the first place. There shouldn't be mortar in the first place. Boys shouldn't be living behind enemy lines. They should be living in a world that cherishes them, that doesn't say that they're part of the problem. You know, they should be living in a world that recognizes the unique contribution that boys give to the world through their risk-taking, through their innovation, through the way that they approach the world. And we need that as humans. We need boys. That's the messages they should be given. You know, and yeah, like I said, yes, we need to make a trench because those people manning the machine gun nest, they aren't going to stop. You know, and they aren't going to stop bombing boys and men. They aren't going to stop. So we do need to do protective things and we do need to take action. But like I said, we should never forget that this shouldn't be happening in the first place. And that a society that turns its men and boys into its enemy does not deserve them. It doesn't deserve their commitment. It doesn't deserve their investment. It doesn't deserve their loyalty. It doesn't deserve anything from them. All right.
Okay, that's okay. I'm trying not to talk that much because a scene switcher will pick me up and it'll switch needlessly.
I have to
so
stop
I
saying,
just don't say. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. All right, let's go back to the video.
This, I think, is, I don't know, hopefully a better approach to masculinity than whatever the hell is being served up at the moment. All right, compass, outlets.
This is the same. Like, what do you this is exactly the same as saying, well, men have a suicide crisis. Well, have you thought about going to therapy, herp-a-derp? Why aren't you guys talk about your feelings? Why are you killing yourself instead? Do you just hate women because you just don't want to do things that women do? Like, putting it back on men is exactly what we already do. Right? And honestly, you just completely jump over the one thing that Andrew Tate is doing right, if he's doing it, which is saying men and boys have their own inherent value. And you need to change that. Otherwise, you're just going to get more of the same. He can't be the only one who says that. Well, yes, I guess he is, because they want to say that the only people who say that men and boys have value are convicted sex offenders. Great. So they can poison that well, and they don't have to recognize this as important. You see what I mean? He's like, to go there is to completely dismiss it. Yes, you did see that because you mentioned it yourself. I apologize, Brian.
It's all right. I saw it. I knew it. I got a super chat or Rumble rant I want to read really quick before it disappears.
Okay.
So,
you haven't gotten any
Nova
super
fan.
chat.
Yeah,
Nobody
it's been kind of quiet. Well, there's an old Super Chow from before too, but Nova fan gave us $1. Thank you, Nova fan 21, and says, "It's so infuriating. He acts like feminist man-hating propaganda didn't exist throughout all of the 20th century media until online social media and Tate showed up." Yeah, I know. It's like acting like all this stuff exists in a vacuum, and he's noticing it. And I wonder if he's not just like really new to this, and he's just like, wow, look at all this woman hatred out here. I better stop it. Oh, it looks like men have problems. If I address men's problems, if I what is it?
Magical.
If I address women's problem but disguise it as my own cooking, as men's problems, then people will listen to me, and I will be successful in my ultimate goal, which is essentially looking out for women.
I'm not blaming them.
Yep.
Because that's the other thing that's not happening.
Struthless, you sly devil.
Mm-hmm. Sly.
It's like the steamed hams thing, but it's like hiding. It's like turning, hiding feminist activism in caring about men, and also stopping men from following Tate, I guess. So, all right. Anyway,
honestly, I don't think it's stopping men from following Tate. It's stopping men from recognizing that their desire to have value or a system of earning it, a clear system of earning it, is legitimate. Like literally, like I think that's the payload. Andrew Tate says that men and boys have value. Oh, he's this awful, horrible, ultimate monster thing. So let's not have to deal with that. Because that's really the I think that's the big sticking point is, can you say that men and boys have their own value? Either they have it or they have their own way unique to them, their own value proposition that only they have. Can you say that? And if you can't say that, you're not part of the solution. And he doesn't want to recognize that because he's not. I don't think he's capable of doing it. Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
Let's go through them. C, compass. First question is, where are you going? What direction, roughly, do you want your life to be headed in?
Oh, God, this feels like this. Do you remember that corporate website that we went through about talking to boys? Does this not feel like this?
Yeah.
This,
Yeah,
I just
it does.
suddenly
Maybe
got
maybe that's where he's getting his info and he's sort of repackaging it.
I just had that feeling wash over me. And basically, this is boys, don't go to people who say that you have any kind of inherent value. Continue to believe that you have to do more work, and nobody else has to do anything. Not even stop the relentless hail of hatred. Okay.
All right.
Daunting, and sometimes questions like that become useless because they're more intimidating than they
Or
are.
alternatively, maps of meaning.
No, you can't do that. That's Jordan Peterson. He's basically the same as Andrew Tate. They are identical, essentially.
Do you want to call in life so freaky is the need to have a specific answer. But a general answer? Yeah, I'm roughly headed north. I think kind of takes that pressure off. When I think about this, I sort of imagine that I am on a bicycle riding through the desert, trying to follow a North Star. In that scenario, there's no pressure to know perfectly.
You're going to die. You're going to die. Don't do that. Do not go into a wilderness area just with a vague direction. Freaking good Lord. No, I'm just saying, just PSA, don't do this thing. That's insane. People need to respect Mother Nature a lot more than they do. You still there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat and waiting. Shall we continue?
You guys, send in a Super Chow. This is getting a little eerie. I mean, surely you like this topic. So go to feedthebadger.com/justthetip and tell us what you think. Wait, actually, I will check and make sure that nothing is hitting the
like a barrier of some kind.
Like a barrier. Like I want to make sure that there's no further Clydes that are hitting the electric fence. I'm sorry, guys. I don't even know why that happened. Let me see. Nope. So you guys send in those Super Chows because it should be fine. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip. No, that we should read that one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to read that one because the guy Clyde also sent this Super Chow in. Apparently, we missed it, and it's a fairly substantial one. So, calling himself Fedor Ivanovich Tuklov, giving us $50 last month, or actually a couple months ago. I know people consider me a bad man. Let them. I don't care a straw about anyone but those I love. But those I love so that I would give my life for them. And the others I'd throttle if they stood in my way. I have an adored, a priceless mother, and 2 or 3 friends, you among them. And as for the rest, I only care about them insofar as they are harmful and useful. And most of them are harmful, especially the women. Yes, dear boy, I have met loving, noble, high-minded men, but I have not yet met any woman, countess or cooks, who are not venal. I have not yet met that divine purity and devotion I look for in women. If I found such as one, I would give my life for her. But those gestures in contempt, and believe me, if I still value my life, it is only because I still hope to meet such a divine creature who will regenerate, purify, and elevate me. But you don't understand it. I believe that's probably a quote from War and Peace.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's get back to this, I guess.
I'm going to get myself a glass of water because this is going and I'm talking a lot. So.
Yeah, I'm going to play some more of this and just be quiet.
Takes out that barrier to entry. And also, because it's a bicycle, every bit of movement counts. Doesn't matter if you're pedaling super fast or just kind of relaxed, as long as you're not doing nothing, you won't fall. So if you are looking for an actionable here or an example, I think one helpful way to think about this would be in categories of life, health, money, work, whatever it happens to be. I'll use myself as an example here. So sobriety, that used to be a big North Star. But when I thought about it as it's either one or the other, I could never really make progress because if I slipped up, I'm like, and I'm the worst. But when I started thinking about it as a compass, like I'm headed towards sobriety and I'm headed away from addiction, then I knew that if I slipped up, it didn't mean that I had to give up. It just meant that I had to course correct and keep making progress. So yeah, compass.
Okay. Again, I don't see how this is unique or crazy, but I mean, these are all. Is it? This is going to be really obvious. I don't know if I.
You know what's not obvious?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say something. We're talking about a society that denies any unique value to men and boys, either inherently or giving them some means by which to develop some kind of unique value position. So, how does any of this actually do that? The answer is it doesn't. So far, it's just generic life advice that you give to like a 16-year-old who has to fill out a letter to apply to a college. I want to navigate my boat by the North Star. It's crap like that. Like, it's all generic. Is this any different than what you'd say to a girl? So how does this help boys need to develop a unique value proposition? The answer is it doesn't, so far. See if there's anything else. Like, is any of this unique to... And that's the thing. He does not want to recognize anything unique to men and boys. So he's not actually answering the issue. I mean, even though he doesn't want to recognize anything unique to men and boys, society sure as hell wants to make men and boys feel like they are worthless. That they drain worth from society.
All right, let's keep going.
Ha ha ha. O is for outlets. To understand outlets, let's have a look at outbursts. Here's one of my favorite phrases. Idle hands are the devil's plaything. If you do not give yourself a task, the bad things in you will find a task and it won't be pretty. For this, I like to imagine that some of the less than desirable traits within me are little devils, man, and I have to be busy in order to use them, otherwise they will use me. So risk-seeking adrenaline junkie, this is something very close to home. This has the potential to be quite dangerous. If we do nothing about this trait, it'll find a way to manifest. If your hands are idle, then yeah, you might find the outburst comes in the form of reckless, drugged up driving. I personally did. Yeah, awful. But also, idle hands could be engaged hands. So putting this trait to work might see you get into skating, climbing, surfing. This stuff might seem kind of obvious, but I think the reason that I wanted to include it was back to Christine Ember. She was saying that a lot of the men that she's interviewed feel as though they are constantly bombarded by messages of what they shouldn't do. Like, you have this trait, well, definitely don't do this, as opposed to messages of what you can do. So if, for example, you're a bit of a...
Where are the messages coming from? Who's telling men that they shouldn't be doing shit?
And how is it that boys need to be told what they can do when they're supposed to be... What did Jermaine Greer say? You should be able to define yourself. I mean, within the within the realm of not doing anything illegal, right? You should have the right to define who you are. And so it's interesting how he's now talking... He's not talking about what is unique about men and boys and the unique value that men and boys offer. He's now talking about what they should and shouldn't do, basically. Okay.
While also claiming to be against that thing. So, interesting. Interesting that.
Fascinating.
Enjoy it a little bit. I get told, don't do that in social situations. And that would be good advice. But it's only so helpful to be told what not to do. What you can do with those sorts of traits is become a brilliant frickin' journalist. Oh my God. We need them. We need them. Aggression. Justifiably, right? If you ignore it, if you ignore the fact that you might have that freaking fire, you might find you start punching people and punching walls. But if instead of ignoring it, we channel it, then that excess energy might earn you a freaking black belt, dude. This is a specific devil, but
okay. Right.
No, it's really... It does sort of have that feeling. Don't you think of that PSA that we went through for boys?
Yeah, but I mean, it assumes that like boys are just gonna punch people in the face, like just randomly. I'm sorry, but they're not in Antifa. They're just mostly just regular kids. Maybe stop encouraging women to encourage men to punch other men on behalf of women. Maybe we can do something about that. And I don't know, this stuff is really obvious. I can't really say anything to it because it's just really obvious shit. Like, oh, you feel aggressive? Well, maybe you should go to the gym. Oh, wow, what a crazy idea that I never thought of before.
Well, and again, we're talking about trying to... I mean, let's bring it back to brass tacks. We're talking about a society that expresses that men are worthless, basically. And does any of this actually counter that message? No.
No, it just offers men a way to like distract themselves without destroying themselves, but it doesn't solve anything. Like it doesn't.
And again, like he has a partner. Like, I mean, really, we should see what happens when and if they get divorced, right? Or break up. He has a partner, so he has somebody who's telling him that he's, at least by her presence, that he has value to a woman, to someone else, right? What happens when that's taken away for him? You're going to wonder about that guy, his friend that commits suicide. What was the circumstance? Was it because he lives in a society that says that men have no value, specifically to women, but also to society, and then he was in a relationship, it went south, or it was really bad. He lost that sense of value, and then he was left with the tsunami of all of the negativity, of all the messaging in society, which he may not even have consciously, but have internalized, that he is valueless, that he's just a burden, right? So what happens to this guy if he loses his shield, which is his wife or partner? Okay. And nothing he's saying is solving that problem. And just recognizing that men earn value for society, like through using the Chinese example, the cultural achievements, that is a shield against that sense of worthlessness, even if there isn't a woman in your life, right? The recognition that you are valued for your contributions, for some other way, that you're not a burden on society. But where is that in all of this? That's specifically is what needs to be countered. And I need to get this out, because this is the problem. He is saying, okay, this is the problem, but he's not actually offering any solutions for the problem. The problem is a society that says that men and boys are worthless. Okay. The solution is for men and boys not to take that message, is to manage that message in them. Not the solution is for us to stop saying that and to start thinking about how men are valuable and boys are valuable. No, that's not the solution. The solution is for men and boys to accept that situation and manage the negative fallout of that. See what I'm saying? Like none of this is actually addressing the problem. It's saying this is the problem, but actually it's men. It's men and boys' response to the problem that's the problem. Okay.
Yep, that's what it is. That's what I'm saying. It's the same old song.
Mm-hmm.
Should I play some more of this?
Yes, I'm happy I have water.
I also think it's probably one that a lot of us know. Self-destructive, compulsive, prone to getting tunnel vision around points. Number go up. If it's used against you, this might look like turning you into prey for the gambling industry or for crypto punts. We've all seen this happen, obviously. That Robin Hood Wall Street bets drama. I think there's something as high as 90% of the people who got preyed upon were men. Now, that's used against you, is used by you. Got frickin' ice bars and endurance sports. There is self-destruction in there. There is number go up in there. There's tunnel vision. There's self-respect. I'm aware that these two...
No actual recognition of the problem. None whatsoever. Just, yep, this is a problem, but what's the real problem? What we're going to focus on in the problem is men's response to the problem as the problem. Okay. I don't think it's going to get better than this. I think I wonder if he's cribbing from Homath with this stuff, or maybe he's just one of the original ones who did this. Okay, outlets. Something for your body. Take great panacea of sweat, the great panacea. So, I don't know, do exercise. Something that facilitates mastery, competence, a side quest, potential career. Something for your mind. Please love yourself. Okay, again, you're asking boys to be equivalent to the Buddha? No, it's not going to work. Again, the problem is a society. Like we started with the whole thing about what society is telling men and boys. You're worthless, right? And now we're at here. And yeah, sure, men and boys should follow these things. They should like do things for themselves like this. But at the same time, as you need to deal with the actual problem. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And maybe the way that you deal with the actual problem is give someone high profile who cares about men and boys and isn't Andrew Tate. Who could that be? I don't know. Peterson?
No,
Oh wait,
he's
he's
just
not
as bad.
okay. He's just as bad. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Example, running, illustration, journaling. If you are
And
looking
again,
for something,
is any of this different? Is this
No.
is this any of this different than what you'd say to a girl? Really?
channel a, I don't know, less than desirable trait, then a simple exercise would be thinking about the last time that you felt shame or last time you had an outburst, and then trying to understand what trait or what thing inside you might have caused that and how that fire could be turned into fuel. Here's a few examples, just trait to outlet. So yeah, what you do. All right, let's look at the next letter. D, dream team. Here's a fun stat. It's not fun. 49% of men feel more depressed than they admit to people in their life. And in 1990, year I was born, roughly 3%.
Interesting.
What?
Interesting. Well, look at his dream team. I don't think there's a single man on it.
Let's find out. Let's see
Okay.
if maybe he'll go into detail a little bit.
Close friends. Now, and I swear it's not my
Oh,
fault.
listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. Okay, 1 in 5 fathers don't live with his children. In 2014, more young men were living with their parents than with a wife or a partner. Apparently, even many men who are married are not ideal mates. Wives are twice as likely to initiate divorces as husbands.
Must be men's fault.
Must be men's fault. Because women is perfect. Well, hey, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a thing you could give men. Women are so perfect that men actually have to strive to achieve to feel like they are capable of being equal to women. Maybe we could give that to men. The fallout of being so imperfect relative to women. Okay.
All right.
15%. But yeah, can't do life alone. You gotta have people that you gotta be able to talk to. Social interaction. It's like oxygen, man. Anyone that you would feel comfortable admitting at least a few problems to. Think about who in your life you would be emotionally honest to, emotionally vulnerable to.
I think that one of those women has a mask on. Are you freaking kidding me? Okay. No, okay, so like...
And they go in your dream team.
What?
No, those are all women as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it looks like it. Looks like it.
Yep. His entire dream team is a harem of women. What a surprise.
Oh, he actually tells you who they are. Let's play it again.
Maybe there's a transsexual there. Is it quite common for men in New Zealand to have Karen haircuts?
I don't know. Maybe it's just a bad drawing.
Yeah, it could be just a bad drawing. Why does the one have a freaking mask on? Okay, weird. All right. Well, maybe those two are men. Perhaps.
He said mates, but it's Australia, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
It might still be women.
Okay.
All right, there's only a little left. We can get through this.
I find to be a million times better than just messaging. I believe the term is synchronous conversation, like when you are both sharing the same timeline. That's when you get all those social... Brene Brown quote to ease your mind. That's kind of what she does so well. Social media has given us this idea that we should all have a posse of friends, when in reality, if we have 1 or 2 really good friends, we are lucky. Lucky, man. If you can't think of anybody that you would talk over...
Oh, God. You know...
Again, guys, if you're lonely, just get friends. Have you ever thought about that?
This guy's got really, like, bleeding edge commentary and advice. You know, do healthy things, don't be violent, try not to get addicted to drugs or gambling, and make some friends. Wow, what a mind-blowing concept. This it took us how long to get through this? 25 minutes almost? Well, I'm enlightened. I can't wait to share this with my friends. Tell them, hey, did you guys ever consider not being addicted to alcohol, gambling, or drugs or porn? And maybe instead, like, walking and getting some sun and making friends and maybe just being a better person than the piece of shit you are now?
I just want to point out, like, again, let's go back to the beginning. Can you go back to the beginning? Like, wait, let's just, before we do that, check the final chapter heading.
I don't. This is just role models.
Okay, fine. We'll finish it. Finish it.
Okay, I don't want to.
I'll keep my freaking mouth.
Or if there is just nobody in your life to fill that role. Firstly, I'm so sorry. That's got to be so freaking isolating, especially because most people can't, you know, afford talk therapy, or some people find it doesn't even work. So if you are in that camp, I don't know what the next move would be, other than like working on yourself. Let me think about it.
Next move. How about this? No mean to toot my own horn. This really isn't. But if you are in that situation, badgernation.online. At least you can come and chat with us. And me, maybe also Brian when he's doing his JoJo streams. So badgernation.online. We got people there. They'll say hi. They have similar issues that they're dealing with, and they have similar like things that they enjoy. So if you are feeling lonely, just come and hang out there. If that's something you need, just putting it out there. We also do a lot of the resources for the show in badgernation.online. So if you've ever wanted to get any of the sources, they're there. It's easier for me to put them there. And yeah, if you want to help out getting sources or suggesting new ideas to cover, that's the best way to do it. Again, that's badgernation.online. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to even say anything. You can just pop in and lurk and just know that there's people and activity happening. And we do care about men, and we think that they should be valued. So there you go. We're just like Andrew Tate. Okay.
All right.
So, okay, I think this is
important to think about your role models. Important. Here's a nice little Tyler Creator quote. Humans have voids, and you need to fill voids. I didn't have a dad to fill that male void. So when I heard Eminem...
Can I look at some of these role models really quick?
Sure.
All right, I'm not going to be able to display it because of the auto change thing, but it's like RuPaul, fucking Anthony Bourdain, Kermit the Frog. Okay. It's not easy being green. Oh, no, it's the puppeteer. What's the name of the guy? Yeah, Jim Henson. The guy from Andre, whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I think he's just being cheeky by putting these like random people's faces. But
yeah.
Again, I don't know. This is obvious shit. Like I don't know what to say. It's just obvious shit to me. So it's not deep. It's not deep. And the thing is, there are people still saying, like, there are people online, mostly feminist women, telling men who they can and cannot have as a role model, while also tearing down their role models and replacing them with their own role models, which they're not even really great about. Like, do you know about the female basketball player that's really popular right now? What's her name again? Yeah. Caitlin Clark?
Yes.
Caitlin Clark is, like, putting the WNBA on the map, and the women hate her. And she is literally, like, what a female role model, like a female athletic role model should be. She is all of those things. She's good at what she does. She makes people want to watch girls play basketball, which is crazy. And she's good at it. And she's a team player. She's got like sportsmanship and shit. So at least compared to the other women on the WNBA. But my point is not that I'm not putting her on a platform. My point is she is a role model that you would think is some that women would like, but they hate her. They are jealous of her. It's like a very hostile environment on the WNBA if you're Caitlin Clark, which is funny because it just shows that, I don't know, what the idea of a role model for men and a role model for women seem to be very different things. Women have role models like Cruella de Vil and Maleficent and, Elsa
Jezebel.
from Frozen and Jezebel and Lilith. Those are their role models, right? Hillary Clinton. Men, they like to see, they like, I don't know, like guys that are excellent at what they do. Hayao Miyazaki or Michael Jordan. When I was growing up, he was like quintessential. Like everybody wanted to be like Mike. He made a song about it. But anyway, should I
finish it off?
All right, we'll finish it off. Let me just switch the.
Freaking seen Dave Chappelle, that's where I gravitated to. It's just asking yourself, who do you admire and why? So here I got, you are what you mentally eat. Obviously, looking at all these people, not every single thing about every single one of
He
them.
likes Dave Chappelle?
Yeah, Dave Chappelle's okay. He's funny. He's got some shit he's got to like wrestle with, but he's okay.
Yeah.
But they all inspire me in some sort of way. Finally, we get to E. Earned, not expected. Yeah, this is how it feels. If I ever had to distill everything that I have ever learned, ever, into one piece of actionable advice about life, it would be this. Earn your own self-respect. Act in a way that does that. There are plenty of metrics we can chase in life, money, followers, records, but underneath all of that, I've found that the one metric that dictates how I feel about it all is how I feel about me. Do I act like someone I would respect? Life's good. When making a decision, like, do I really want to talk about masculinity on the internet, even though it's so, spicy? Well, which answer would lead to more self-respect? I am going to respect myself for making this video. So.
Okay.
Good for you. Good for you. Because honestly,
I don't think you really put your neck out there that much, but all right, sure.
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning, because this is the actual problem. Let's remind ourselves what the problem is. Now that we've gone through his whole solution, find
the beginning?
Not the beginning, but where he shows all the shit that men have to deal with. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
it must be so hard to be young right now. Full stop.
Why are men and boys struggling?
Toxic masculinity.
And what should we do about it?
The decline in masculinity.
Yes. Women don't like.
Left want to define traditional masculinity as toxic.
We need men 4 times as likely to kill themselves.
Men are in trouble.
Sexist, rapist, piece of shit.
Well, that's worse. Like, he's really soft pedaling it. Like, it's much worse than that. There is, again, the problem is that we live in a society in which we cannot recognize any unique contribution that men and boys give to society in any legitimate context. And by legitimate, I mean academic, school, media, that kind of thing. Any kind of institutional context, we cannot recognize that men bring something to the table just by being men, right? And that means that men and boys, or boys, are raised in a culture where they are told these things, that they are worthless and they offer nothing, that they have nothing of value for women. And they need to know, where they are looking for what their purpose is, who they are, how they gain a value proposition in our society. And that is the problem. And his solution is not to get society, maybe say, well, maybe our society shouldn't be saying that boys and men are worthless. His solution is apparently, well, first of all, it basically is no different than what you'd say to a girl. So it's not developing a unique value proposition for men and boys. But it's also just putting the onus back on boys. They need to develop a positive sense of self under fire, without recognizing that society has no right to be doing this in the first place, and that they deserve some kind of sense of value, some kind of, at least a sense of how to develop value, and that other societies have successfully explained this to their boys and men, and they have been successful societies. Like Chinese society is actually pretty successful on the whole, right? But that none of what he's saying actually solves the problem. It doesn't even really address it. It actually basically says, well, this is the problem, but the real problem is men's response to the problem, men and boys' response to the problem, so we're going to solve that. No, that's not how it works. First of all, 100%, our society is in the wrong. It doesn't matter how many people say it's right, how many people do it, how many women agree with it. That doesn't matter. It is absolutely 100% wrong to say that men have no unique value proposition, especially when we rely on it to keep the lights on, right? That is 100% wrong. It is 100% wrong to say that boys have no value, okay? Especially when they're going to grow up to most likely be the men who keep the lights on, right? That is wrong. That is not something a society has the right to do, right? Our society is at war with its own men, in the masculinity of its own men. Okay, we got to make a space where that war isn't, where they aren't being shelled, where they aren't being shot. And then when we have that space, then boys can start developing a positive sense of self. Once they're out of the line of fire, and it is not a failure of men or boys if they need to get out of the line of fire in order to develop a positive sense of self. Like, seriously, this is ridiculous. And finally, this man has a sense of value because he has a female partner. He has someone, he knows that he is at least somewhat, because of her presence in his life, he is valued by a woman. The real test of everything that he's gone through and all of the wisdom and the coping skills is when he loses her. Now, I don't want him to lose his partner. Having seen her, I'm going to add a when to that if. When and if he does, that's going to be the test, because he will no longer have a source of value.
Yeah.
All right.
So I got a super chow and a super chat. So Richard Bier gave us, no, I just got one super chow and one super chat. Richard Bier gave us $5 and says, is this guy in the same league as Manifestel or Hannah Cox?
No, he doesn't. Nobody's in the league of Manifestel.
Yeah, it's a whole other level. And then I got
is a whole other level.
Yeah, then I got a super chat from Albert Native Retro for $2 Canadian. And he says, don't forget Amy Dunn, Brian, the hero of Gone Girl. No, how could I forget that? All right. So you think that's crazy? You should watch Midsummer. Holy shit. That's it. That's it. So we can go into the patron show now.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining. If you want to send a message after the show is over, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. It was a slow show today. Do you guys not like this subject?
Oh, I got another Rumble rant too.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know. All right, so NovaFan21 gave us another $1. Thank you, NovaFan, and says, looking at his past 5 years of videos, he seems to have switched from being an artist to a life advice grifter. Thank you for that. I think grifter is a little bit of an overused term, but I do think that there are places where it applies. So maybe you're right. I don't know. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. All right, that's it. So
grifter, though? I mean,
well, grifter.
It's a strong statement.
It's a strong statement, but I mean, like I said, it might be true. I don't know. I think it's overused.
I think he doesn't understand, or maybe he just doesn't realize what he's doing. See, the problem is men and boys are being shot at. Well, the real issue is that they're not bulletproof, according to him. No, the real problem is that they're being shot at. Yes, maybe they have to dig a trench. Fine. Maybe they have to take action to protect themselves. Fine. But the real problem never ceases being that men and boys are under fire in this society. Like, you can't get away from that. I sure as hell am not going to let anyone get away from it. Even if it means, like, as this guy recognizes, that our channel is never going to get really big. I don't say never, because we, like, honestly, that's not identifying an enemy. When I say that the real problem is that our society is, at war with its men and boys, it's treating them like crap. It's not giving them any kind. It's basically saying that men and boys are the enemy. Well, that's what it means when you say that men oppress women. It means they're the enemy. And when it's saying that, like, that's the problem. Now, that's not really identifying a political group. It's just identifying an attitude and a behavior. And we all need to stop it. Like, we've all probably been at one point inclined towards that attitude or behavior, but we had to liquefy it. We had to get rid of it. We're all responsible for it. We're all responsible for ending it, not just forcing blame on men and boys and saying, well, we're trying to shoot you, but you should become bulletproof. Why aren't you bulletproof? Like, screw you. Like, if you were any kind of man, you'd be bulletproof. Good Lord. Anyway, once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you want to send us a message. I got to stop hitting my mic. And eventually feedthebadger.com/support if you want to support the show. All right. Are you ready, Brian? Or
yeah, I'm ready.
To add?
No, I'm ready. I got to do the after show. I'm starving. So we're gonna head into the patron show now. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining a Frame, and we will talk to you all in the next one.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna see, that's the thing. It automatically transferred us to the next. You gotta stay quiet while I switch back to the outro.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.